Let's Get To presents Go Go Astros, a focus on H-Town hardball.
And we're back here on Go Astros, our kind of in the parlance, Brian, of our the way we do TV now. This would be our mid-season finale, I guess. Our mid-preseason finale.
Is there going to be a cliffhanger ending? And if so, you should have scripted that, but let me know ahead of time.
We'll find out. We'll find out. No, I do want to talk about something kind of weird, and I prepped you for it, but I think what I learned as we market this show and our other shows, that I'm not really built for Twitter. I don't possess the ability to let things go, and I don't possess the ability to sort of not try to be, I don't want to say intellectual, but I like to have conversations that matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the strengths of the show.
It's one of the strengths of the show, and it's also one of the strengths of the show that this spun off of, because this is really the Frasier to Let's Get To's Cheers for all my people my age out there. So I had a tweet the other day, and
oh dear, I'm the Niles of this show then.
You're not. Does that make Andy Norm? I think he would love that, actually.
He would.
Yeah. It's a dog eat dog world, and he's wearing Milk-Bone underwear. Andy's actually not with us today, so we can make those jokes. But so I had a tweet the other day that I thought was innocuous enough, and I stand by the tweet, and I'm gonna explain why I stand by the tweet. But I just basically highlighted all the different kinds of baseball that are lockout proof, that are not going to be affected by the lockout. And it was in response to so many baseball fans being worried about baseball being gone. What happened, and admittedly, it was just a few people. The tweet itself has 189 likes, 49 retweets, 9 quote tweets, and most of the quote tweets are positive. But a lot of people sort of branded us and me as being anti-labor. And I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, I mean, baseball is supposed to be fun, right? And we know there are lots of elements where it's not, right? And the lockout is at the top of the list here because it's, arguing about money, and arguing about money is a necessity in life, but it's never fun, right? Even when it's important. And part of the thing about other forms of baseball, right? And you highlighted not only minor league baseball, but independent league baseball. And I think you had the Cape Cod League, either you talked about there, or I know you're going to that sometime soon, sometime this summer. These are all sorts of extra forms of baseball. They're available to a lot of us in communities, unfortunately in fewer communities than there were a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But again, the business part keeps, messing up the fun part. But these are all things that, again, we get out there to go and to enjoy. And, is it everything we want to see in baseball? Of course not. Is it a fun part of baseball? Absolutely. And I think it's worth noting there are all sorts of different ways to enjoy baseball. And we shouldn't try to limit, one of the, I think, pieces of wisdom I've learned over my time is we shouldn't limit how people try to enjoy stuff. And we should let them do that on their own and be open to all sorts of different experiences.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things I want to unpack about what you said and about the big complaints. And I think we'll start with, I can't speak for you directly. I can guess that for the most part, you, me, and Andy are for the most part pro player in this instance. I think
absolutely.
Obviously, I think the owners have some legitimate points that should be addressed, but for the most part, we are not pro owner.
Absolutely. And, my perspective is Jim Crane. I'm an Astros fan. I think Jim Crane's done a pretty good job as an owner. I've never seen Jim Crane hit a home run. No, I've never seen him strike out a batter. Jim Crane doesn't entertain me. Jose Altuve entertains me. Luis Garcia entertains me. Ryan Presley entertains me. And, the dollars I pay for my Astros gear and for my major league tickets, I'd rather they go to those guys than to Jim Crane, who seems to be doing pretty well.
And let's be honest, I'm a long Cowboys fan. you can ask me whether I thought Jerry Jones was a good owner at different parts of that ownership time, and my answer would be very, very different.
Absolutely.
But I care about watching, from my childhood, Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman. I don't really care about watching Jerry Jones. In fact, the less I see him, the better. So I think
true for so many owners, but especially for Jerry Jones.
The other thing, though, that I wanted to unpack, and this is the thing that I think really bugged me the most about it, was the number of people who sort of piled onto this concept that all these other forms of baseball are somehow exploitive because the players are either not paid enough, or in the case of collegiate summer leagues, not allowed to be paid. And a couple of things I would want to address on that is, first of all, those leagues are like internships to get to your next job. And I don't understand where we've turned in this culture where the concept of an internship is an awful thing, but that's kind of where we are. But college baseball players that are not pitchers are not ready for the major leagues coming out of college because simply the bat's different and it's a big deal.
Yeah. And they're 20 and they need to develop, and they'll be better when they're 23. And it's a pretty rare, the number of players who've gone without minor league baseball is exceedingly rare. And I think the last one's Mike Leake. And so, that's the way to go. Yeah. I mean, players need to develop. And again, it's a different environment, obviously, in minor league baseball from a competitive standpoint, because the players are all controlled by the major league organization, and they put, a number of limits on those players. So, it's not the same thing, but this is part of why minor league franchises so much embrace, having a fun time at the ballpark, having lots of promotions, having all the stuff that you like to highlight on the Let's Get To show of, hey, here's a fun way to spend your time at the ball yard. Here's the thing you can take your kids to of whatever age and have something enjoyable. And that's a great part of baseball. I'm a college baseball fan. I'm a particular fan of LSU because, again, my family has roots there, and LSU has a really good college baseball team. Yeah. But I particularly come to like college baseball since I moved up here to the north, because college baseball is going to start this year on February 18th. And I enjoy watching college baseball in the middle of February because I'm freezing up here and it's a bunch of people doing a warm summer thing that's much more fun. And it helps you remember that it's not going to stay cold here forever, no matter how much it seems like that. Again, our viewers in Houston, viewers in Houston and viewers in Texas won't quite have that same perspective. I didn't when I lived down there, but it's something particularly valuable to me. I should note that baseball will be played at Minute Maid Park because on March 4th, 5th, and 6th is the Astros College Classic, featuring teams like Texas, your favorite team, and LSU will be playing each other. They're both ranked top 10 walking into the season here. So big game. Baylor, Oklahoma, LSU, Tennessee will be at this here. Again, is it the same quality of baseball that we'll see with the Astros? Well, again, I watched Alex Bregman in college, and he was really good in college. I've watched him in the pros. He's much better in the pros.
He's much better now, yeah.
He's developed, and he's developed, and he's more mature and stronger as a 27-year-old than he was as a 20-year-old. But he's really good at both, and it's fun to watch him all throughout his career.
I think one of the other things too, that the complaint of calling minor league baseball, and they were really focused mostly on independent and the collegiate summer league stuff, because again, in summer leagues you can't pay the players due to NCAA. Although, I mean, those players are now making money through name, image, and likeness, and I'm sure that all factors. But either way, and calling it exploitive is, I think some people don't understand, and this was put on display in the pandemic so well, when the pandemic was really hitting and everything was shut down. These are all small businesses who make their money on the margins, and they were still there for their communities while they weren't sure. And then if you're an affiliated team, you also were living under the, I don't know if we're going to be around because of contraction. Yet they were still doing for their communities. They're anchors of some of these small towns. And I think to not understand that and just think that baseball should be relegated to 30 major league cities is missing the point of the game, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. Baseball is fun. And that's true. If I look out this window here, there's a little league field across the street from me. It's just fun to walk over there sometimes and watch them play, and frankly, watch the parents try to get nervous in the stands. and it's fun to watch, high level stuff and everything sort of in between. And again, it doesn't have to be, every part of this doesn't have to be for everybody. We can enjoy different things for different reasons, but one thing I've learned over time, let's not crap on people for enjoying the stuff they enjoy. Let them enjoy it, because you know what? As you point out here, right? Good things happen from the fact that people enjoy baseball that isn't just Major League Baseball within these communities. And that's a positive thing for.
And let's talk too. I mean, some of these, I was thinking about some of the communities like, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. They lost major industry. It's an economically depressed town. Giving them a 3-hour break a day, middle America, we flyover country, all of that stuff. We know what's happening, but yeah, I just wanted to start with that because I'm a big, I can't let it go guy. And I tried to engage politely, and then it was a double down situation. So I just changed the channel. But speaking of changing the channel, Brian, Andy famously on Joys of Mudville referred to Rob Manfred as gaslighting everybody with all of this stuff about the MLB, the Players Union rejected the mediator. I understand why, because they never actually got counteroffers from MLB. Where do you see it all going now, particularly with that move?
Yeah, I mean, my sort of read between the lines is the reason the owners asked for the mediator was to create further delays. It had sort of two advantages. One, they get this PR win because they get to say, we asked for a mediator and the players rejected it. What a bunch of, I can't believe they rejected this. Mediating between what? You're not making offers. You're not working to
right.
compromise. You're taking a bunch of stuff off the table. And then secondly, hey, we can create more delays in this, which the point of paying for the players is when they stop getting paycheck, when they don't get, so players don't get paid in the off season. They get paid, their payroll starts essentially on opening day. And I guess they get paid every 2 weeks or twice a month, or, get a daily paycheck, but they get, money from that. Obviously there are plenty of players who have a lot of money and have saved it, but again, as we've talked about here before, a ton of players, a higher share in baseball than anywhere else, are minimum salary players. Mm-hmm. People who have made, not a lot of money in the minor leagues, because again, they get really,
low pay.
They get low pay, whatever sort of term we were to add.
Unless you're a bonus baby, and most of the people we're talking about aren't bonus babies. Yeah.
No. And so if you were called up last season, you get to make a minimum that is well above the average person's, but still you haven't saved up a lot of that money yet. And so the Players Union's doing stuff to deal with that. What's become more clear to me over time, and I think you and Andy were on this before I was, is the strategy of the owners is to try to delay as much as possible to force to try to put pressure on the players and try to make them threaten their paychecks as a way to create leverage against the owners, which again makes sense when you think about it. It was something I was hoping they were trying to avoid, because, well, they lose some money too, but they're heavily invested in the strategy, it seems like.
It seems like, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but it seems like Rob Manfred and the 30 MLB owners look at the relationship the NFL has with its players union, which is much weaker. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, what they want ultimately. And if they're playing a long game, this would be the way to do it. I think everything we saw, from the way the Astros were treated to deciding to check balls halfway through to letting it leak that there were two different balls, all those things, I think, were designed to cause infighting in the union.
Yeah, which is, again, a standard strategy of essentially war, right? Probably war is too strong an analogy here, right? But again, I want to create divisions in my opponent so that they are weaker, and therefore I create leverage with that. And again, what's harder for the players to do is to create leverage against the owners. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is there's only 30 owners. It's easier to organize and have solidarity among 30 people than it is among 6, 7. I guess it's 40-man rosters, so it's 40 by 30. That's 1,200 players who are part of the union. And so you've got a lot of different people with lots of different interests among 1,200 people, plus just coordinating 1,200 people is really hard. What does seem to be the case is that the Players Association have developed more solidarity over the last few years. So there's few signs of that cracking. There has been money put aside by the Players Association for essentially strike funds. So hopefully that will, again, we're pro player. Hopefully that'll increase the resolve of the players. So they're willing to take out a few paychecks. And, if Justin Verlander misses a paycheck, he'll be fine, right? Carlos Correa misses a paycheck, he'll be fine, right? But if,
Justin's got that Kate Upton money, he's okay.
And just he's actually really unique in the sense that his wife can make millions of dollars, and that's not the case for the rest of them. So he's probably not the best example here, but he's an example at one extreme. But Jake Myers or Chas McCormick, if we go through the Astros roster of some of the most recent, call-ups, they're players who, can you give me a few bucks here to make sure I can stand? And if you do that, hey, I'm with you, I'm with you at the top of this.
Yeah. And I think it's the strategy. I think we saw the writing on the wall with the way the owners responded to the pandemic.
And what's notable is they haven't been chastened by that. They essentially lost that, round. And they haven't been chastened. And the players are more unified than we thought before. And instead we're getting, if things continue the way they are, the players' proposals don't seem all that radical to me. But it's the owners who've been increasing their profits. Revenues have gone up much more substantially, at a higher rate in the last 6-7 years than salaries. So unless you're really dumb, which, several owners who I question that, but unless you're really dumb, you're making more money. Yet it's the owners who are more radical in their sort of look at this. In their negotiating strategies.
Yeah, and I don't. It's interesting to see how it'll break out. It looks like right now, though, there's no chance spring training starts on time.
I mean, it's supposed to start in 10 days, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the cruelest things I ever to tell after the World Series, right? My wife was trying to cheer me up by saying pitchers and catchers report. She looked up pitchers and catchers report on whichever day, and like, honey, thank you. I'm not feeling good right now.
Yeah.
And just watched the last out of the World Series, but yeah, they're not actually, I don't think they're going to report on that day. There's going to be a lockout here. And
no one on the 40 man is like, you might get minor league spring training starting on time, but
which fits to what we're talking about earlier, right? Minor league spring training will happen and minor league games will happen. So again, there will be some baseball for us to watch. College baseball starts in a couple weeks, but the big stuff, they're in a real contentious situation and it's still going to take a while to resolve it. So
I guess as we wrap up, then, let's put on your Swami hat, your prognosticator of prognosticators. We're going to take 2 weeks off for the film festival. So we're going to be back 2 weeks from today, or 3 weeks from today, I guess. Where do you think, you think we're going to be in the same spot we're in, or do you think we'll start to see some kind of light at the end of the tunnel?
I'm sure we'll have more negotiations between then and now. I'm sure people will, and it's often in these things darkest before the dawn, in part because so much of this is sort of brinksmanship. You need to go sort of the brink, and negotiations are a little bit like a game of chicken. We just hope they don't drive the cars off the cliff.
Well, let me ask you that then, because, and I know it sort of just came to my head, but this is actually the first time baseball has been through this in the age of social media too, where it feels like we're getting real-time updates, and when those updates are, there's no update. I don't remember what it was like in '94 when you'd read it in the Chronicle and then you'd find out whether baseball is happening again. I think it's part of it, right?
Yeah, no, it's certainly part of the story here, and public opinion has a very sort of part of that. Public opinion has a different feel. Also, it feels to me like there's a larger cohort of people, and this is particularly true on Twitter, and I don't know if it's just my Twitter feed or something in general, but among, I think among the most high-level baseball fans, there tends to be a lot more support for the players. and a lot less pox on both your houses than there were in 94. Now, again, that may just be limited to a particular segment. Maybe
Sure.
I'm overexposed to that segment. And, public opinion is a weird thing on this thing because, does my opinion as someone who, writes and podcasts and comments about baseball and thinks about it on a daily basis, is my opinion more worthwhile than, a guy who goes to 4 or 5 games a year and, listens to talk radio about it once and listen, watches a game game once a week? I don't know, right? We're both sort of constituents here to this, and in elections we all count the same, right? This is a little bit different. The public opinion part of this here is a little bit different, and again, who has influence matter. I'm doing too much of my lectures from political science class here.
It's fascinating though.
Year, right? But yeah, no, it's a question to sort of think about here. And again, there's plenty of people who's just get this over with and get me baseball. And as we talked about, if whatever Sturm and Drang they have here, they're able to get a resolution and they're able to start on opening day, people won't remember this in 6 months, and that's fine.
How do you think though? I mean, do you feel like we're heading toward another Mickey Mouse season like 2020, or do you still see a world where 162 happens?
I'm more pessimistic about 162, but if we have a 144 game season, is that a Mickey Mouse season?
No. I mean, yeah, I would think 60 feels like I think anything under 100 games becomes Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. And so that's probably, this is one difference between here and 94, and part of why the dynamics are different. The strike, part of why the owners locked the players out is so that the players couldn't strike in the middle of the season, where it creates more pressure on the owners. The good news for us, a few times I'll say good news about something the owners have done, is that makes the pain point in April and not as it was in 1994 in October. And if they screw up in April and don't get it to May,
okay, yeah,
we get plenty of baseball, less than we like, but we get plenty of baseball. They struck in August of 1994, and when they couldn't get it done by October, we had nothing. There's no 1994 World Series. There is a alternate timeline in which the Expos win that World Series. They signed Tom Brady when they draft him out of high school, and there's a whole different timeline about two different sports. Yeah,
two different sports. Does beg the question though? Is Justin Verlander really the GOAT? Because I think Kate Upton greater than Giselle, but that's just me. I guess
I will say this here, every bit of sort of thing on social media is like, they seem to be a really fabulous couple and are really into each other, and that has continued for many years. So,
they survived, the famous leak. They survived.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they are not a typical Hollywood couple. Yeah. And I think it's awesome to see. I guess really, really and truly last thing, despite not having Carlos Correa on the projected roster, the Astros are still projected by Fangraphs to win the division by 10 games, anchored mostly by the pitching staff. Shocking to you, or kind of what you've been thinking?
The biggest thing that was interesting to me, so these are worth making some caveats here. These are, well, hey, since we have the lockout and we have the freeze right now, we can make projections. Mm-hmm. So obviously things will change after the lockout ends and more signings to be made. Correa will sign somewhere, and a whole bunch of other free agents will, and trades will happen. But at the moment, right, it speaks as much. The Astros were projected for 91 wins. The guy literally runs 1 million computer programs to estimate each season. So there are some of those where the Astros win 100, and some where they win 95, and some where they win 81. 91's the average, so it won't necessarily be that. But the more interesting part here is the rest of the division did really poorly. The Angels are in second place at 81 wins, and the rest of the teams are sort of follow right behind that. And it kind of speaks to sort of what I think about the team this year, sort of looking into the division. I'm not sure they're going to win 95 games again. I'm not sure who in the division is strong enough to challenge them and to win 90 games unless they get a fluky season like the Mariners did last year. And I'm skeptical that'll happen for any of those teams. I think their biggest threat, the second place team in that, was the Angels. And the biggest threat to the Astros is the Angels get average play from all the rest of their players and a healthy year from all their stars. It's theoretically got to happen one of these years. Right?
One of these years it has to. All right, well, that will wrap us up, Brian. Thanks so much for jumping on. We do wish Andy well a quick recovery, but
Yes,
we'll be
indeed.
back. We'll be back after President's Day, after the Austin Revolution Film Festival. Go Astros.
All right, Go Astros, and everyone go see the Austin Revolution Film Festival.
Can't wait till it's over.